we'll get to it. Today, Jake prepared the topic, and I really love the one that he chose. So we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, I went a little bit bold on this one. So the idea here is that we want to, ultimately, the goal of this lesson is to get evidence that you're worth it. That's what I titled it. And my push for you is to get out of the A line and into the T line, to be looking at belief, because belief is such a more important thing than action, and that we all default to action. I mean, we all, whenever something comes up, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And so checking on this belief. So my inspiration comes from this. I'm just going to confess. I get coached sometimes in the mornings after I drop Paige off and I'm driving home from her school back to the house in the Jeep. If I've done my devotion and I have a question, I get coached by Jesus Christ. He sits next to me and he coaches me and he goes through models with me, runs models. Now, not a lot of people have this relationship with him. I do. And so he was directing me towards the T line a lot today, out of my A line. And so it just occurred to me that on the heels of Easter that we just had yesterday, that we should take a look at this character, Jesus. And for many of us Christians, Jesus has a very elevated status in the world. He is God. But for a lot of people, I know that they don't share that same belief. Their T line doesn't include Jesus being God. But even so, we got to look at him. There's a lot of evidence that he's a pretty significant figure in history, regardless of your view of him in terms of your own personal faith and belief. And so wherever you are, we've got to look at this guy and say, well, he died 2019 years ago, and I know that because of the year. We're all counting time by the guy. And so it's worth knowing kind of what his message was, like what he was telling us. And so in the A line, Jesus puts love yourself, love God, love each other. That's his A for us, to have an awesome life. In the F line, he wants us to feel loved, accepted, worthy, forgiven, all of those things, so that we can have that sort of life. And then in the T line, and this is what was interesting and what I was actually asking him about this morning, is that it's very important to him that I believe that he was sent here by God. And so I was like, hey, why is that so important? Like of all of the things you teach, so many of these insights, why is that one mentioned so often? Why is that so important for me to know? And so when I was looking at it in terms of a model, I was like, oh, T line, I was sent here from God. That gives quite a bit of credibility to what he tells me. And so that when he tells me, Jake, I want you to feel loved, accepted, worthy, forgiven, and then I want you to act by loving me, loving others, and loving yourself. I'm like, oh, I got it. It's really important to have the credibility, because what we believe gives credibility to what we think.
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with the T line, A line, F line, it's really the self-coaching model that we use with our clients that Brooke Castillo came up with. Like she just took a lot of concepts and put them together. And so it's just really a way to realize that circumstances are neutral. We have thoughts about them, and then those thoughts cause our feelings, and those feelings generate our actions, and those actions give us the outcome, the result. And so what you're saying, Jake, is that Jesus wants us to just feel loved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then no matter what, and he offers us the way to do that. Because the way that the model works, and that was a nice way to say it. If you don't know what the model is, go back and watch our other videos, because there's a bunch of videos that explain what the model is. But the idea is that every feeling is caused by a thought. And so he's offering us this thought, I was sent here by God for you because I love you. And when you really believe that thought. And so he was like his whole ministry was about getting us to believe that thought. Like practice that thought, believe that thought. And he's like, this is how I know that you're my friends, because you believe when I tell you I was sent. That when we believe that thought, it fosters these feelings of loved, accepted, forgiven, and worthy. And that gets us to take the action. So what I want to offer you today, what we want to practice, is I want to say, just imagine whether this is coming from God. If you're a Christian person, it's coming from God, then it's got this weight to it. Or if you're not, and it's just coming from some imaginary, infallible source, this all-knowing voice that knows all of truth, is saying to you, you are loved no matter what. Like if you imagine that, like just imagine what that might feel like. Whether you lose money or make money, whether you succeed or fail, whether you're in your relationship or out of your relationship, whether your marriage is successful or it falls apart, whether you own your home or you're stuck renting against your will or you end up on the street homeless, that no matter what, that you're loved. And so in your feeling line, the feeling that you have is loved, accepted, worthy, forgiven. What does that make you do? What do your actions look like when they're motivated by a feeling of unconditional love?
Well, unconditional love to me feels different than conditional love, and so I think it's really cool that you specifically said unconditional love, because I know that I'm loved, but let's take for instance for you. I know I'm loved by you if I am honest, if I don't cheat on you, if I do all these things that of course I want to do, but if I don't do those things, then you may not love me. And so unconditional love is a feeling that's like, wow, that's a new level of love. So for me, the way I would show up differently is I would be more generous. Like if I don't feel like there's a lack of love that I am getting or have access to, then I don't feel like I have to reserve my own love for myself or my time. Like I'm pouring out more because I feel like it's an endless supply of appreciation and love and acceptance.
So what do you do? So what actions do you take? So the love's unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
That means that your feeling is loved. It never gets to change. You're just imagining that there is no, whether it's me, you, God, whoever, that you just. How do you feel right now, Whitney? Loved. Hey, how's your day going today, Whitney? Feel loved. So now you have a busy schedule.
Yeah.
How do you show up in a busy schedule when you're feeling loved?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I would say patient. I would be patient. I would be kind, both to myself and other people. I would be willing to extend grace easily, both myself and other people. If someone's running late and now it's going to push back my schedule, I'm like, it's okay because life is good. I feel love. Now, does that mean that there aren't consequences to actions? Yes, but what overcomes that is the love, the grace and the kindness and the patience.
How do you show up in the consequences? Let's say that you have a business and you decided that you forgot to market your business for 12 months and now there are no clients and no money coming in. You're like, dang it. That's the consequence, but you feel loved.
Yeah.
How do you show up in that? What do your actions look like?
In belief. I mean, to me, love hopes. It hopes in the possibilities. It believes in the possibilities. And so if I'm hitting an obstacle, like, oh no, we didn't market well, or we have a consequence showing up, that's okay, because it can be, it's momentarily. It's not where we're going to stay. We're going to keep going. Like, we're going to get past this.
And why does the consequence show up?
Because that's life.
Yeah, and what are you supposed to get from that consequence?
Lessons.
Oh, because you're loved, because it's for you.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. Like when you start to see that, if I'm loved, if I have a belief that is unshakable, that I'm loved, then that means that whatever happens is for me, because I'm loved. Mm-hmm. And so it has to be, right? And so then I get to look with curiosity about, how is this for me? Where can I grow here? How can I show up? Who do I want to be in these hard times? And then when the good times come, you're like, yeah, of course, because I'm loved. Mm-hmm. It's got so much upside.
And so Jake, why is it so hard for us to use this model? To use this
to always feel loved?
Yeah.
Well, because we tend to put a higher emphasis on why we are inadequate than why we are worthy. And it's not our fault. It's evolutionary, and it once upon a time it was very helpful. And so that there's a whole piece to unpack there, but it is interesting to note because that's exactly the tool we want to offer you today. Because the question is really, okay, I can see the value. I can see why it would improve my experience in both the good times, the bad times, the neutral times, the ugly times, the beautiful times, and all the times if I just felt loved, how that would be awesome. But how do I do it? Especially with a brain that thinks negative is reality and all of the things that are making me feel loved are kind of just fluffy. And so what we want to offer you today, I mean, that the question's a difficult question and it's really the cornerstone of our entire business, you know? And so it's not like I can just go, boom, there's the answer. It takes some work and there's, you know, a little bit that goes into it. But the tool that I want to offer you today is simply to get in touch with what you think and create an evidence list of your value offered to you. To really be the one that's supplying your value. And so this is usually where Whitney comes in and she shares her experience and her thought work techniques. I did a thought download. I did. Isn't that crazy?
Nice, Jake. We get to hear from Jake.
That is that's
real behind the scenes.
So my topic is my value on default.
And default means that it is your brain's natural place when he's not managing his mind. Just to clarify. For people that aren't in our self-coaching.
Whitney just knows I'm going to say some negative things. She's never really heard it before, and she knows it doesn't come out publicly very often, and she's feeling very uncomfortable.
I know I'm not.
Yeah, you are. My value on default. I'm getting old. I thought I'd be farther in my life by now. I've dropped the ball on so many dreams. Professional volleyball tops the list. I'm too skinny. My hair is too thin. I'm terrible at paperwork. I don't have as much money as I thought I would have at 44 years old. I don't really know anything about cars. That tends to like lower my, opinion of myself as a man. I get scared in big waves. I like to think of myself as a surfer. When the waves are really big, I get scared. I've taught people to rock climb and they passed my skill level years ago. Like I showed them, this is how you do it, and then I stayed stagnant and they continued to grow. Those sort of things don't make me feel very valuable. But wait a minute, Jake.
First of all, I just want to say that was really good.
Oh, thank you. You have
really good.
a belief that you're loved, and that belief is unshakable. And so if that belief's unshakable, then you have to ask your question, how can it be true? How can it be true that I'm loved? Well, I have Whitney. So clearly I'm loved.
Thank you.
I have Paige, that's my daughter. I have enough to eat. I have clothes, food, shelter, and water. I can run, jump, climb, swim, and play. I have the Bible. I can just read stuff that people wanted to understand for thousands of years. It's just right in my cabinet. I have the internet. I can go anywhere in the world just with clicks of a button. I have a car that I can count on. I have friends that care about me. I am courageous. I am funny, fun, and clever. Funny. And I can serve, and I have opportunities to serve. And this one I really like that just popped into my head. People respect me enough to ask for my help. I really love that, and I love the way that makes me feel, that to position myself in this place. And as I go through, I can start to see this list could go on really long. Like once you start to realize things like I have a bed to sleep in, I have a place to be warm, I can see, I can hear, like there's all of these. It really gets to be this massive list, and I start to see, oh wow, I'm loved. There is my evidence, and it does start to foster that feeling in me. So that's what we want to offer to you. That's your tool that we want to give you today, is to start your own and just make this statement. There is no, on top of your paper, right? There is no doubt that I am loved. So how can that be true? And start your evidence list from there of the things that you have. So a lot of statements that, I have. It doesn't have to be material things, but then also things that you are. A bunch of I am statements that go, on that place. I will. Things that you aspire to, that you're going to achieve. Or people respond to me by. Like start making statements about the way you are seen or the way that other people interact with you, and start to generate this list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so what if someone doesn't think that they have a list?
Well, they at least have water.
So they're loved by having clean drinking water?
Yeah, I mean, because some people don't. You know, I mean, or there's possible to not.
And the people that don't have clean drinking water aren't loved?
They have something.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that anything that you have, it's possible to not have. And so by focusing on what you have, and it's not fake. Like, you heard my list of negative. That was a true list also.
Yeah.
It's just but I'm trying to, on purpose, use this tool to foster a feeling of love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like, personally for me, I think that's awesome. All those lists are definitely evidence of being loved. But I also think that just the fact that we were created, like that we couldn't create ourselves, and so therefore we were made by something bigger than ourselves. Therefore, we are loved through that. That's one thing. And then I also, just being out in nature and seeing like the sunset and the moon, I feel like they were created for us to enjoy. And so we are loved just by, if we didn't have shelter, like just being able to live outside in the beautiful creation, like we like you're saying, we have so much love surrounding us. It's just opening our eyes to receiving it, that yes, I am loved. Look what I get to enjoy.
Agreed.
I like that.
And this is not going to be a one and done thing. It's not just like, oh, you make this list and now you constantly feel loved in your life. That's not how it works. It's just a tool. And it's a tool that we're focusing on today. There's definitely practice that's involved in believing this, because you're going to, like same way I did, you're going to have these default negative lists that go in there, and you're going to have to say, but wait a minute, I believe that I'm loved, and so how can that be? and that's always, it's like a practice to go back to that and build that case. Now, some people are going to be able to do this and just go forward, but if you are thinking, I'd like a little help getting started with this. Like, I really see the value in feeling loved,
mm-hmm.
but I would like some help. Well, it turns out we're basically pros at that. We help people.
Well, Jake's a pro at it.
Feel loved.
I'm someone who's gotten better at it. I have coached myself to getting better at it.
People feel loved like a pro. Whitney does a great job. She makes me feel loved, and so I know that she's a professional at it. But we are at steadfastlifecoaching.com, and if you go in there, you get to schedule a free session with us. You can go in there and get your consult. Yeah.
You don't even have to pay $1.
No, not even $1. And the thing is, I did some research, and maybe you have too. If you look at other life coaching places and you start to look at the pricing, it turns out that nationwide, the average is not free. And this one is free. And so it's a really good price based on all of the market research that I've done. But maybe I say that and you got this thought like, it's kind of selfish to invest in myself like that, to take that time away from, whatever I have going on, and I don't really feel worthy of it. If that's the case, then make your evidence list first and then call us. Let the evidence list build up this idea. Oh, we'll put that false belief that you're not worth it. Once that goes on pause, then call us. Then get on the internet and send us an email and let's get this thing scheduled and start talking. Because we want to help.
And I love this topic, because the more we are able to foster, and your example of Jesus is so good.
Thanks.
The more we're able to foster the love for ourselves because we feel loved, then we're able to love others, the difficult people, which I think is so common to struggle with, the judgment, like I should love better, or I should love more. I know I've definitely struggled with that. It comes easier because we are feeling loved and filling up our love cup. So it then goes and just kind of outpours. And that doesn't come from getting it from other people. It comes from us.
Mm. Yeah, and then all the difficult things that you need to do, all of the trials that you have to overcome, once you feel loved, then you're like, I'm worth it. Like you're willing to do harder things, and you start to see this stack come up. And then yes, you are willing to be uncomfortable to help these people, and you are willing to show love this way, and you are willing to go get the forgiveness that you have available to you. But it's sometimes so hard to go grab, and you'd rather just stay in your cave and cry. And so it just opens up a lot of doors.
It does. I'll just share this since Jake was vulnerable, and I'm going to not ante up.
She is. She's one-upping my vulnerability. It's all right.
No, but I remember being a Christian, really looking to the Lord to see my identity and to feel accepted, and I did not feel loved. I thought that he was like, you know, had like a heavy fist and was constantly like, you're not doing enough, you're not doing it well, and all, you know, just totally had a disconnected view of that. And then also on top of that, my self-love and self-worth was so low that when people would compliment me and something is like, Whitney, you're so pretty, or you're such a beautiful person inside and outside, it would literally fall dead on the floor. Like I would not be able to say thank you or receive it and believe it because I didn't fill my own love up. And so I love this conversation because when we see that God, that something bigger than us created us, loves us, and now we have so many things because of our list of evidence that we can love ourselves for, and that list just keeps building and building. Now it's so much easier to go and return that.
Agreed.
Let's see what we saw a few comments, but we
should put a poll on here. Who won the vulnerability?
Annalise says, I love that. It should be a t-shirt. I have Jesus in my T-line. I like that. Love can overcome absolutely everything. Jennifer said, my friend sent me this message just the other day. Above all, love each other deeply because love covers over a multitude of sins. 1 Peter 4:8. So good. Jody says, yes, she does. Thank you, Jody. Annalise, I think by nature, it's a difficult thing for us to have unconditional love for ourselves. Absolutely. This is a valuable tool and exercise. Yeah, for sure, a practice. So what was, just to, as we are concluding it, their action step is to build a list of evidence?
Yeah, to start with the statement, the thought, I have no doubt that I am loved. How can that be true? And you're saying, how can that be true? Just because your default brain likes to show you the ways that you're inadequate, like so quickly. Mm-hmm. And so you're really forcing the question, no, I believe this. Like you're taking a moment and just deciding to believe it and saying, how can that be true? And building the evidence that you have that you're loved.
Yeah. And I think another discussion for a different day or different week would be, how do you then take that list of evidence and really make it something that you believe hard in, rather than something that you just you read off and on.
Mm-hmm. No, it's great, and it is definitely something to teach again. It's also something though that if you follow us and you're up on these things, we did a series on how to believe, on how to believe something new. So you could actually even go back in there, or if you're a client of ours, it's available in your tool belt. You can just hop in there and watch that video too, if you don't want to wait for next week, or if you just wait for next week, join us here.
Yes.
And I guess that's what we're going to be talking about. I just found out.
And for those of you that are watching that are not our clients,
fix that.
Go sign up for a free session. It's fun.
Plus, you get to talk to us.
All right, guys. Have a great day.